JuFufu has an incredibly strong core passive, and when paired with a 4-piece bonus from the King of the Summit drive disc set, she can boost her team's crit damage by a whopping 80%. On top of that, thanks to the offensive stats she gets from hitting this buff cap, JuFufu will be able to dish out some really respectable damage and days on her own. In this video, I'll walk through my recommended gear setup to help her reach that buff cap, mainly so I can refer back to this video in my full guide. If at any point you lose interest in the numbers and assumptions, feel free to skip ahead to the summary at the end. Now let's start with the most important part of JuFufu's core passive. For this breakdown, we'll assume that it's at max rank, since maxing it out should be our first skill priority anyway, given how powerful it is. Without going into too much detail, JuFufu has a unique chain attack that activates Tiger's Roar, a squad-wide buff that provides several bonuses, which are a 20% crit damage increase to the whole team, increased chain attack and ultimate damage, and 50 impact for JuFufu herself. And on top of these bonuses, for every 100 attack JuFufu has above 2800, the crit damage bonus she gives the team increases by another 5%, up to a maximum of 30% extra when she hits 3400 attack. So when her core passive stat requirements are maxed out, JuFufu can give her team a total of 50% increased crit damage just from this buff alone. What's interesting about this buff is that it's accessible even without her signature W engine. I'm not saying that it's easy to hit these numbers, just that it is possible with the right substats, which is a pretty unique thing so far. For example, compared to a Trigger or Lighter, who more or less need their signature to reliably max out their days and attribute bonus respectively, we can get all of JuFufu's character value by just using an A rank engine, saving us resources without having to sacrifice much in return. So here's the setup I recommend. For the W engine, we're going with the A rank Steam Oven, which we can pick up from the gadget store. The drive disc set is a 4-piece King of the Summit paired with any of the 2 attack percent 2-piece options, and the main stats we use are attack percent in disc slot 4, 5 and 6. With this setup, not factoring in any substats at all, JuFufu ends up with the following initial stats. The 2 key stats we need to talk about here are her crit rate and attack. Let's start off with crit rate. We need 50% to fully activate the 4-piece King of the Summit bonus. However, with this gear setup, we're 30.6% short. Dividing 30.6 by 2.4, the crit rate we get per substat roll, equals to 12.75, which we round up to 13. So to reach the required crit rate, we'll need 13 crit rate substat rolls. This is possible with some luck, especially since we can get crit rate on every disc slot, given that we're not using crit rate on disc slot 4. As for the attack, with this setup we're already 234 attack above the breakpoint where we start to gain more crit damage from each point of attack. So from here on, every additional attack we get from substats will increase the crit damage we receive from Tiger's Roar. The remaining attack we need to fully cap out the buff is 366, which translates to 9 attack percent substat rolls. This isn't easy to get, especially since we need about 2 crit rate substat rolls per disc as well, and we can't get attack percent to roll on disc 4, 5 or 6 due to their main stats. However, combining attack percent and flat attack rolls can help us reach the buff cap. In this matrix, I've highlighted the different combinations of attack percent and flat attack needed to fully cap out the buff. Not all of them are realistic, but it's just for reference. I do want to add that I'm not entirely sure how strict the formula is for the attack to crit damage conversion. It's definitely not as rigid as we need 100 attack to get 5% crit damage. From my testing, it looks to be a 5% coefficient, meaning one attack gives 0.05% crit damage, or 1% for every 20 attack. This might not be fully correct with how the game handles roundings of numbers, but it seems to track from my testing. So keep an eye out on the description of the video, I'll update it with the formula if I find anything new about it. Now let's make a few assumptions to get a clearer picture of what we're working with in terms of stats during combat. Assume we've gotten our 13 substat rolls of crit rate, fully activating the 4-piece bonus. Let's also say we've reached the 3400 attack, capping out the crit damage bonus from the Tiger's Roar buff, and that both the Tiger's Roar and Steam Oven engine effects are active. With these assumptions, here is what JuFufu's stats would look like in combat, without any external buffs. Keep in mind that these stats will most likely be a bit higher in some areas since we have a bit of unaccounted for substats with these assumptions I've made. But as you can see, JuFufu is working with a lot of offensive stats and also a very high amount of impact. Now, as for why I recommend Steam Oven over the other easily accessible A rank options, it really only comes down to the 50% energy regen it provides as an advanced stat. If we only consider the crit damage buff, any of the A rank engines will do the job, and none of them will change the amount of substats needed to reach the buff cap. But JuFufu's playstyle relies on her EX special to maintain smoother gameplay. By getting energy regen directly from her engine, rather than from a drive disk, we get all our desired stats without making any sacrifices. So while the engine choice doesn't affect the buff itself, for the bigger picture, Steam Oven is the better option among the A rank engines. Comparing the A rank engines to JuFufu's signature engine though, it doesn't even come close. The signature engine opens up both the 4th and 6th drive disk main stat slot to crit rate and energy regen as main stats, allowing the need for fewer crit rate substat rolls while also getting the extra energy regen. To maintain all buffs with the signature engine, we only need 3 crit rate substat rolls and any combination of attack percent and flat attack shown in this matrix. It might seem like a lot of required substat rolls, but we don't really need any other stats when we're using the signature engine, so we can just tunnel vision on attack percent. Also, on top of getting all the bonuses A rank engines are able to provide, the signature engine also provides its own unique bonuses which I haven't even mentioned here. An A rank engine can't compete with the raw stats of a signature engine, but that's not really the focus here. The main takeaway I want to emphasize with this video is that JuFufu can reach her full potential without needing her signature engine, which is a unique advantage for her as a character. To reach her full potential, the gear setup I recommend includes the A rank Steam Oven W engine, the King of the Summit 4-piece set, either one of the two 10% attack piece sets, and attack percent as the main stat for slot 4, 5, and 6. As for substats, the requirement comes down to 13 crit rate substat rolls and one of these combinations of attack percent and flat attack. It definitely isn't easy to reach the buff cap without the signature engine and will require a fair bit of luck in terms of substat rolls. But with this setup, JuFufu can provide an 80% crit damage buff to her entire team, along with an incredible offensive stat spread that boosts both her personal damage and days output. I hope I've been able to make my point about JuFufu not needing her signature engine clear and that you've found this information useful. As someone who usually advocates against getting signature engines, it's nice to see that JuFufu can activate her full kit without needing hers. Anyway, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.